Hello, my name is Scott. Please call me Scott, and welcome to microbiology. The overall plan for this semester is to break the course into three distinct components. The first section is about the microbes themselves. This is what it's called, what would be a traditional microbiology class, right? And it's all about bacteria, metabolism, how microbes make a living. This part is usually considered to be esoteric or boring to most students because most students can only think about people, and to think about microbes is a little tough for them. The next two sections, though, are more popular. Section 2 would be microbes and immune system and technology to fight microbes. People like this section. There's a large component of the immune system there. You're going to absolutely need this material for your pathophysiology class in nursing school. And then the third section is the diseases, microbes and human health. And we're going to go through diseases from bacterial diseases to fungal diseases. Okay, so this is a medical micro class. And so two of the sections are definitely more allied health oriented. But we have to have the first section to talk about because we can't really talk about the other two sections if we don't understand that, okay? So sorry. We're going to talk about microbiology first. It's the study of microorganisms. What are microorganisms? They're small. They're usually small. You can usually not see them without a microscope. The unaided eye, the Mark I eyeball, you can't see microbes with it. Microbes or microorganisms. What are they? Well, they can be bacteria, they can be archaea, they can be eukaryotes, they can be viruses. You might have heard of bacteria like E. coli. Archaeans, you might not have heard of, and that's okay. We're going to talk about them in a second. Eukaryotes, you are a eukaryote, but there are also eukaryotic microbes like an amoeba, a paramecium, a euglena, right? And so they're tiny, tiny little eukaryotes. They have a nucleus, but they're small. And then, of course, viruses are also microbes. And so why do we care? Why do I have to take this stupid class? Well, because microbes are the dominant life form on Earth. That's why, right? If you want to understand biology, you have to think about the microbial world because that's where biology is. Okay, in terms of total numbers, microbes are the most abundant. If you counted all the organisms on the planet, there are more microbes than organisms visible with the naked eye. Now, this next statement is a little debatable, but depends on who you talk to. But microbes are maybe the most productive as well. So if you took all the microbes on one side of the scale and put all the non-microbes on the other, the microbial side would be heavier. In terms of mass, there's more microbial biomass than any other life combined, all of the life combined. Now, the plant people would argue with you on this one. Well, there's more plant biomass than anything else, and that's because plants are easier to count than there are microbes, right? No, I just go and count all the trees. It's hard to count everything that's really tiny, right? Which is just so much more of it. But nobody's going to the bottom of the ocean and counting all the bacteria. The history of life on Earth is the history of microbes. Plants and animals are relatively recent, 500, 300 million years ago, okay? The first life on Earth is 3.5 billion years old, right? So way older, and it's all microbes, right? Animals are relatively new. Microbes have been here for a long time. And so these fossilized stromatolites, 3.5 billion years old, what is it? It's basically a microorganism collecting sediment around itself, and then it forms rock. It builds up and forms rock, okay? And that's called a stromatolite. And there's really old stromatolites. There's also new ones forming. And it's an ongoing process. That's what it looks like, a stromatolite, okay? Microbial. Now you think, wait, I thought you said you couldn't see microbes with the naked eye. Well, I'm not looking at individual microbes here. I'm looking at a collection of microbes that deposited bits of material around themselves to become visible, right? But the individual microbes I cannot see in there. Microbes live everywhere on the biosphere of Earth, and they live out of where we think the biosphere is also. Way high up there, right? Look at this diagram. The plane's only flying at 20 kilometers. People have isolated microbes way higher than that, 250 miles in the atmosphere. Okay, and deep in the bowels of the Earth and under the ocean, there are microbes. as deep as people go and check, there are microbes there. Okay, so they're everywhere. People can't live down there, but microbes can. People can't live up there unless they're in a space capsule, but microbes can. In fact, on the outside of the International Space Station is plastered with microbes from the Earth. They're not from outer space. They're coming off the Earth and sticking to the outside of the International Space Station. Right? They wipe it down. They streak that cotton swab on some nutritional media, and microbes grow. Okay, so the Earth is shedding microbes into outer space. Okay, so this next slide is a diagram of the tree of life. Okay, and it doesn't look like a tree. Well, it's sort of like a tree, but we're going to say that the root of the tree is here in the middle, where the green line, the red line, and the blue line meet. And we're going to see that's the first organism. Okay, and that's the root of the tree. And we have three kind of main groups here: bacteria in green, archaea in blue, and eukarya in red. Okay, and those are the three domains of life. Bacteria, all microbes, right? Here's Escherichia coli, right? E. coli is there. Here's the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Well, actually, that's a bacterium, right? I believe the chloroplast is in here too somewhere. Yeah, there it is, chloroplast, right? It's the power that what makes the plant able to capture sunlight and make ATP out of that. Well, that was also once a free living microbe. All right, so all microbes here. Archaea in blue, also all microbes, right? Also all microbes, right? So here we have two domains, all microbes. So let's look at the red domain here, the eukaryotes, the domain of eukarya. All microbes down here. Giardia, right, causes beaver fever. Trichomonas causes Trichomonas vaginalis, right? These ones that cause disease. That's why people care about them. Here's trypanosomes that cause Chagas and sleeping sickness. Here's Naegleria, or Naegleria fowleri, the brain-eating amoeba. Can't see them with the naked eye either. Dictyostelium you can sometimes in some parts of its life cycle. It is visible with the naked eye. And then we get down to here, the one tiny little corner of the tree of life, one tip of the tree. And in this tiny little tip of the tree of life here is all plants, all animals, and all fungus. Those are the things you can see with the naked eye. The rest of the tree of life, microbes. That's because Earth is the planet of the microbes. If you want to understand biology, you have to understand that this is a microbial world, and animals evolved to fit into a microbial world, not the other way around. Long before animals, there were microbes, and animals evolved to fit in the microbial world, and we take advantage of it. And that's why you have to take this class. If you're going to understand anything about human health, you have to understand that we're covered in bacteria. Not just your skin, but your hair and the inside of your digestive system. It's all covered with bacteria, and they're exchanging molecules with your body all the time. They produce the oxygen you breathe. Why are microbes important? Because the oxygen that you are breathing, the final electron acceptor of your respiration, is produced by microbes. Long ago, microbes figured out how to burn water, right? And to oxidize oxygen, right? Pretty amazing stuff, right? And you're like, well, I thought it was plants, but remember we said the chloroplast inside the plant, that's a bacterium. Microbes cycle elements essential to life. When you throw out an apple, it's lunchtime for the microbes, and they're going to recycle those elements into something else. How does nitrogen get out of the air and into biology? It's microbes that do this. Microbes reproduce quickly. Some microbes can divide every 20 minutes, right? And microbes are well evolved and continue to evolve rapidly. This is a problem with antibiotic resistance. We're going to talk about that this semester. Thing is, people are worried about germs getting dirty. I believe it's actually not because people are afraid of germs. I think people think other people are dirty. But Regardless, microbes are essential to human health. If you didn't have microbes, you were completely germ-free, you'd have a lot of health problems. You would, and you'd probably need vitamin K injections and things like that. You know, boy in the bubble has to get supplements. Okay, and the thing is, only a very tiny fraction of microbes can cause disease, and so it's like a subset of a subset. So there's a subset of microbes that live at human body temperature, and only a subset of those actually cause disease. Right? So people freak out about germs when these bacteria are essential to your survival. New terms that have been redefined in 2020, and so we're going to learn the new terms. Microbiota is a community of microbes found on a multicellular organism like yourself or a plant. And I think virtually all multicellular organisms that people have investigated, from insects to humans to whales, they all have a microbiota. Now, a microbiome is a microbiota plus the environmental conditions plus the associated molecules. So they're calling it theater of activity in this diagram. Basically, we're going to see this is that there are a lot of microbes that build little homes for themselves. It's called a biofilm. We're going to talk about that in this section of the class. Okay, so microbiota, community of microbes, microbiome, microbiota plus other stuff. So let's talk about you and your friends, your microbes. Your body has more bacterial cells than human cells. If I ground you up into liquid and counted all the cells, there'd be more bacterial ones. Most of the DNA in your body is microbial DNA. It's not human DNA, as you have all of these microbes living on you. And when I say on, I also mean in, and that's a tough one because the inside of your digestive system is still the outside of your body. Okay, but so in, on, don't sweat it. Just you're not going to get in trouble for using those interchangeably. Speaking of the digestive system, it contains thousands of species of microbes. Most cannot be grown in the lab. Only recently, in the past 20 to 30 years, have people developed the techniques to figure out who lives in the human body or on the human body. That's within my lifetime. Now, gut microbes is the part that's really intense for microbes. There's a lot. It's wet. There's food. It's a great place to live. We've evolved our guts in the microbial world to take advantage of this. And gut microbes influence drug metabolism and toxicity, immune system conditioning and response. There are gut microbes that make neurotransmitters that influence your moods. Who's in charge here? You or your microbes? Gut microbes are directly implicated in obesity, circulatory disease, inflammatory bowel diseases, autism, right? There's a huge impact upon from your microbial community up to who you are. You thought, oh, I thought it was just my DNA. Well, no, it isn't just your DNA. It's how your specific collection of alleles interact with the environment. And here's the environment. It's the microbes. One of the big components is the microbes. Here's a little more detailed examples. E. coli in your gut makes vitamin K. That allows your blood to clot. No E. coli, no vitamin K, no blood clotting. Bacteroides ovatus breaks up plant fiber in your colon, right? And think about how small a gram of feces is. Oh, yeah, I scored a gram of feces. It's a really tiny little amount. And I'm telling you, there are 10 to 100 billion B. ovatus cells in that one little gram of feces. Right. So when you have a bowel movement and flush down the toilet, say goodbye to trillions of bacterial cells. In fact, bacteria are so important in the gut that people are using them as medicine now. So Clostridium difficile, C. diff, a big problem in hospitals, hospital-acquired infection. It can infect the colon. It causes serious health problems, and you can dump antibiotics into those patients, and a lot of them are not helped. So what do? You put somebody else's poop inside their colon. It's called fecal bacterial therapy or a stool transplant. So basically, I'm going to put somebody else's poop up there. It goes up, not down. to restore the normal flora, the normal microbial community in there that allows the gut cells to produce a chemical that neutralizes the C. diff toxins. Right now, this is hell on the FDA. How do you regulate this? But it works so well, they're letting people do it. Now, I used to have to stretch and say, well, infectious diseases are a problem everywhere, not so much in the United States, but everywhere. But I don't have to say that anymore. Microbes cause pandemics, right? We're living in one. Another thing, though, we can talk about are food recalls, food safety recalls. You might have remembered like spinach food outbreaks or lettuce food outbreaks. There's always one for bean sprouts. There's a lot of problems with food recalls. So let's just look at the current food recalls today of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. This is 8/20/2021. What's being recalled and why? It's always salmonella and listeria. And here we go. Here's some Hostess hamburger and hot dog buns contaminated with listeria and salmonella. Here's here's some sushi and shrimp and more shrimp contaminated with salmonella. Here is some more shrimp with salmonella. Undeclared nuts is always in here as well. Let's look at another page of this. We have salmonella. We have this sodium bicarb with 5% glucose is also waterborne microbial contamination. They didn't figure out what it was. They just know there's stuff growing in it, and we can't sell that to people. Undeclared nuts again. Burkholderia cepacia complex, right? This ultrasound gel has bacteria in it. We can't sell it to people, right? I mean, this is, I'm not doing any numbers here, but you can certainly see here, listeria, salmonella, salmonella, listeria, 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 salmonella. These are all the products recalled from the market, and a lot of them are microbes. So maybe you're not sure you want to go into nursing. There are plenty of other jobs you can get with the skills you learn in this class. Okay, so let's go back to the lecture here. Another reason we talk about microbes is factory farming leads to overcrowding, and overcrowding leads to disease, infectious diseases. And that's just not factory farming, it's also cities lead to overcrowding, which leads to disease. So this picture here is a bunch of chickens in a barn, and those are the lucky chickens. Those are the ones raised without cages, right? And those chickens are jammed in there, as many as they can fit in there, right? And if you get one chicken sneezes, it's going to sneeze on all the other chickens, right? So disease spreads through here rapidly. That's why overcrowding leads to disease. You might have driven down 99 or 5, and you smell a feedlot, right? So cows are grazed on public lands. It's a kind of cowboy welfare. And then to clean the meat out, to get the tannins out of the meat, they ship them all, the cows, to this picture, places like this picture here called a feedlot. And they finish them off with corn to kind of sweeten the meat up, to flush out the grass taste from the tannins. So all these cows are basically eating corn, standing in each other's feces. They're going to get sick. And so they have to be pumped full of antibiotics. 80% of antibiotics are fed to livestock. So this contributes to antibiotic resistance. And antibiotic resistance is a problem. Lots of people die in the US every year due to antibiotic resistant bacteria. And the reasons for this are misuse and overuse of antibiotics, and of course, the natural mutation of the bacteria. We're going to talk about that in this section, why bacteria are so good at evolving. They're more promiscuous with their DNA than we are. It's something called horizontal gene transfer we're going to talk about. And I'll continue the next half of the lecture in another mini lecture.